the sole, and then you put the rubber strap through that hole, and the friction will hold it together. If you're using a thinner piece of rubber, you got to come in at an angle so that there's more surface area for friction. So it becomes a little bit more difficult to manufacture, but we can use a thinner rubber. But that was for durability and the guarantee for life. The business model with the dumping of the sandals, because we work with manufacturers in that village, the shoemakers never go out of business. We support them, and they make our initial shoes, and when we do a shoe drop, he's making the shoes for the shoe drop. So he's making money, as well as his family and all the people around him. They're making money by donating our shoes. So,
Does that lifetime warranty apply for children who are growing, their shoe size is always changing?
No, it's just the actual shoe itself.
Okay.
The straps are slightly adjustable, but the length of the shoe is not. So, go ahead, Carrie.
Alastair, what has made you so creative in your approach to business? Can you think back?
Yeah, so I think I like to. So I'm one of these leaders that I'm almost never in the office. I'm always outside, and I really feel that the outside world gives me stimulus. But I always hunt for needs, right? Like I always look for need first, and then business second. So if I think of a great idea, I don't think of it, oh my God, what a great idea. I think of it in terms of the need of the people. So when I came up with GreenSoul Shoes, again, I saw the people that had needs, and I thought of a way to solve that problem. And so it's a great question. I think it's based on need-based. Like even when I look at all the companies that I've started, and they're all different. One in technology, one in real estate. I got a company that donates shoes. I'm actually working on a tea company right now. So and I have a restaurant in Chelsea. So it's like there's no unifying element to all of these different companies, with the exception that they all fulfill a need. They also supply a need. So when looking for something to do, I think first start with your passion, and then while studying your passion, look for a need that you can fulfill that maybe will help supply your passion, and then you can come up with a product or a process to be able to fulfill it. And then the hardest part is trying to figure out a way to make money by helping these people that are in need, or the environment, for example. You can come up with whatever problem there are, and the hardest part I find is the third element, right? The third leg, the part where you can figure out how to make money while fulfilling your passion and serving a need. Go ahead.
So you spoke a lot about failure. What has been your biggest failure?
My biggest failure? So when I first started, so I've got a lot of them. I think, so it's between my first and my second company. I'd say I'll talk about the one that's easier to understand. It was a company I started while in law school. It was called Archon. Basically, we produced functional assessments of patients in hospitals. And my partners were a doctor who was like 65 years old, went to Harvard, his best friend from Harvard, who was also 65 years old, and they practiced yoga together. They were friends from Harvard on, and they were friends for 50 years. They loved each other. And then me. So I was like this young kid in law school, and I was basically hired as an analyst. So basically, he had 10,000 data sheets, and he would organize them by age, and then he would have some sheets by injury. And so when a patient came into a hospital, we were supposed to assess that patient and say, all right, 21-year-old with a broken arm. So I would look at 21-year-old injuries, then I would look at broken arm injuries, then I would look at any specific allergies the kid had, where he grew up, where he lives. And then we had all these categories, and I would then use all these bits of information, 25 bits of data, to produce a length of stay. I would say, well, he's going to stay 2 nights. Like, I mean, if you asked me that question in 2 separate days, if you asked me the same question at 2 different parts of the day, my answer would be completely different. It's just too much information to handle. If you ask someone else that question, again, yet another different answer. So I basically was hired along with 18 other business students and law students to do this analysis. And I went to the doctor and said, there's a better way of doing this. We can use computers. We can use I was thinking of actuarials, maybe a statistician to produce a result. But he said, you know what? You figure it out. If you can come up with a working result, we'll create a company out of it. I'll make you a shareholder, and we'll fire all the other 17 guys. And I was like, not too psyched about losing 17 guys, but I worked with a company in California called California Scientific. Their claim to fame is they turned 10 grand into $2 million in 1 year betting on horses. And they had a system where you just need an expert to put in the neurons, like the actual elements, like the weather, the track length, the age of the horses, the conditions of the track. You need an expert to come up with these areas, which are called neurons, and then it would spit out a result. So an example of the way the neurons work, if I say fluffy animal carrot, what do you guys think of? Rabbit, right? How did you get rabbit? A completely unrelated word to these three words, right? Well, basically you associate these words to rabbit, right? And so that's the way my computer program worked. It associated 25 bits of information, and it related them, and it spit out results. And so I tested it, I trained it on like 100 bits of data, and then I tested it on another 100, and when I got within since these results, I actually had the results, I began to compare the results, and when I came within a 10% variance, I knew I had a great algorithm. So we were on McNeil-Lehrer hour, we were going to revolutionize the way patient check-ins had, and our first company, our first client was Flushing Hospital, 1,000-bed hospital, 1,100-bed hospital. And the way we charged money was we said we would take $100,000 in advance to start, because at the time it was before the World Wide Web. So they needed computers to connect to our servers in Cambridge, because Victor, the doctor's best friend, was a professor at Harvard in Cambridge. So we needed to connect the servers through the telephone lines with those 9600 baud modems. And 9600 baud at that time was blazingly fast. The good old days, right? So we needed to connect it to our servers in Cambridge. So we needed to buy new equipment because they didn't have computers. We needed to train them. So we took $150,000 for us to buy computers and train them, and that was non-refundable. Then we had an agreement with them where we did a per day per bed cost of the hospital, which is the general hospital cost. The per day per bed cost was a certain number, and we guaranteed that if they used our system, that we would save them money. So the way we made money was every patient that came in the door, they had to use our system. So when you walked in Flushing Hospital, you got asked 25 bits of information, and then it would spit out a result, and the hospital had to place the patient where we said that was going to be placed. So the doctor had no say, right? The doctor, if he has a patient, he goes, I want him in overnight urgent care. If the system said, day stay, the administrator had to place them in day stay according to what our box told them. Doctors hated it. But in any event, for every functional assessment, we got $15. So we made about $300,000 in functional assessment charges. But it was sat in our bank account because we weren't allowed to use it, because in our agreement, if we did not save them money, we'd return their functional assessment money. So that would be $300